Hey everyone, this is Shon Urbas, a CTO co-founder here at Pandium. Thank you for joining us today. This is our continued series of AI integrations and chatting with engineers about how we are going about building either integrations or just any other software. We build a lot of software to support the integrations here. And so today I have Shanta on the line with us. She is a software engineer here at Pandium. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi everyone, I'm Shanta and I'm a software engineer at Pandium. Nice to meet you all.
What I was really interested in is you are probably one of our first hires post AI boom. I don't know what else to call it, or the LLMs changing everything and how programmers are programming now. And I just was really curious to explore that a little bit more and specifically talk to you about it. So yeah, like I guess just a little bit more about your programming background and then like when did you first start really using LLMs?
So I have a bachelor's degree in computer science. I already had the experience prior to AI's use of AIs. I was in game development and I used the old way of doing things. Like there was a Stack Overflow, we copied the codes and we went iterate through each process and everything. There was pull request and GitHub process. All of these were pretty normal. After moving to Canada, I joined boot camp when there was still the old way of doing things. Like you will do code by code, line by line. Everything is like back in 2024. But in 2025, there is a huge boom of use of AIs. Like everybody was using AIs. Some people were skeptical, some people were still using it. And I joined like in 2025 to use the AIs. Like I used ChatGPT initially and it was to build my portfolio like from scratch. Everything is like AI generated code. And then I got to explore it even further, like after joining like fast paced events like hackathons. And then it became like, oh, I can use it in my daily life every day. And now I use it every day.
You mentioned your daily life. Do you use it outside of software engineering?
Yes, of course. Like I am picking something for my house, for example. Then I will use AI's opinions all the time. Like even for general conversations, like I'm attending an event and now I need to use AIs like to have my elevated speech for them and also what to prepare, what to not to prepare, what should be I should be like I should care more and care less. Even those general stuffs, I tend to use AIs these days. The thing is there is all this like culture differences between me and someone else. Like I came from a completely different culture, so I need to pay extra attentions to those details, and I feel like AI is the best advisor for me because it tends to work every time with what I am planning. And like I always tend to plan ahead of my time, and I use AIs to help me out with that.
It's really interesting. And yeah, I never thought of that angle of being someone who's new to a continent and new to a country or something and using that to help sort of make things smoother because we all have our little idiosyncrasies. And yeah, if you say something wrong or you plan something weird and you never know because in one country it could be totally fine and in another it's like not. So I could see that's something you totally do like with Google searches before the time. With respect to your usage of AI here at Pandium, like, what do you say is the biggest difference between what you're doing now versus, like, your game development back in 2024?
So back in 2024, I joined a company which already had a code base of 3 years or 4 years old code base. So it was already quite huge. And back then, how it started was it was like simple 4 lines of code in a single pool, then 5 lines of code. It gradually increased over time, like within 2 months or so. And back then it was quite a challenge. Now that I think about it after using AIs, I'm not sure how I did that. Like if I could go back to old days, maybe can I pull it off? I'm not sure. But back then, like if a huge or like medium huge features, it will take like weeks, 2 weeks or so just to pull it off. Like, and it's just two files changed. Like you wrote just 500 lines or 1,000 lines of code and it took you 2 weeks. And So when I joined there, it's somehow someone was always there to help me out. Like, hey, take this file out. If I'm something missing, like what file I should check, I will always ask advices like what should I check for. But after using AIs, we forgot to ask people or teammates what files to use. You just write a ticket and you paste it like, in your AIs, and it will know what files checklist you should be looking at. And now I'm more like, I would say, independent than I was in the past.
Independent of other humans, but
Yeah.
kind of dependent on the AI.
Yeah. Yeah. Independent of like you, I would say I'm still dependent on someone else, but this AI. So I wouldn't consider it as a person.
Yeah. No, that's really interesting. I know specifically for me, like I think the big break was December or November of 2025. And yeah, I'm writing a lot of code using LLMs now. And I think what you're saying sort of tracks with what I've seen is just like our polls are getting bigger, but we're able to close them a little bit faster. It's not like exponential, but there's definitely some speed up. And I think going through the whole process of development, yeah, I guess it's faster. I just feel like I could do more. Sometimes I'll like start upgrading something and LLMs are great for helping you upgrade things, but then I'll be like, "Oh man, this is so much bigger than just like upgrading packages or something." And can sort of just go down a path. How do you like sort of, and this is me more than you. I'm interested in like how do you keep yourself focused? Because actually I find your polls very focused.
Actually, it's thorough because some of these things are manually done. Like, for example, the pull descriptions you see, it's not completely AI generated. I write it, then I
Oh,
paste it to AIs, and then it fixes some of the sentences. But I always make sure to say in my tone, write
right.
it my tone. So that's why the pull descriptions is a bit different. And whenever I'm writing codes, like I'm doing any pulls, I always start with plan mode first. So in plan mode, something specific, like even my conversation title, the MD files should match the ticket names. So then it, even if forgets some of the tracks, it loses tracks. It goes back. Like I always tend to remind them, like this is the conversation. So just go through the plan files if you are missing something. So that's why it is always on track. Like it
Right. You
almost
keep it on the guardrails. And yeah, it's not necessarily, I think it has a way of exacerbating people who like to like go down threads because they'll start talking about something. You're like, oh, that's really interesting. Let's like dig in on that. I like what you're saying. You're like, no, we're sticking to the plan. Stop having these tangents.
it's also because of the memory saves. Like I kept something very strict, like keep it on track. You are never going out of focus. Keep it simple, be concrete. It's more like a mini versions of me every
Right.
time. The AI has become a mini version of me, but faster.
Are you putting those type of instructions in your like base Claude MD file or are you just doing that on every prompt?
Just memories. Like if something
Oh, yes.
if something I like for example, like I'm not sure if you rename the plant files. For myself, I kept it in my memory, like in the closed memory, that whenever I rename the conversations, if there is an empty file, just rename it as well together.
Oh,
So
that's smart.
yeah, so it does that most of the time. It never misses it.
I have to constantly tell my sessions, hey, remember to look at your memories for this. It sometimes doesn't want to look at the memories. You ever find that
But
an
yeah,
issue?
sometimes it doesn't. Like if the conversations get really long, I think it lost its purpose.
Right.
So I try to like, hey, we have a file name. Just check the conversation title. And it's easy for me. I think it's like whenever I say this is the file name, like I know, and it just tries to find it and it finds it and goes back on track.
I'm really curious. Last week we had, I mean, this happens all the time with Claude Code. It goes down. And then you're like, what do I do now? What do you find yourself doing during those times where Claude Code is throwing 500s or
Yeah. Okay, that's an interesting question. So I used premium versions like this year after joining Pandium, but I was using free versions. Like I need to save money, and I try to be like multi-user of different EIs all the time.
uh,
And I think you saw it in my interview. I use Copilot. But
Right.
prior to that, I prepared a prompt from the ChatGPT. ChatGPT is free. It was good at generating prompt for my other AIs. And so I use Copilot. I also use ChatGPT and I also use Gemini. These days, Gemini is completely free. So whenever I'm like, I have the code, I have the plan, I go straight back to like, I can't give the full code to Gemini because that's not how I set my project yet, the Pandium project. So I give a portion of the code and plan, and it
Uh-huh.
generates the code for me. I just use it. And for Gemini, I think I'm not sure if you use Gemini all the time. It's pretty good. I love the answers. And sometimes, whenever I'm not liking the answers of AIs, but I don't have enough context, like what do I not like? I put that portion of the code and with Gemini and ask like, what faults do you see? It finds some of the issues with it. I paste the response back to Claude, and Claude like sometimes agrees and sometimes like it somehow it knows that this is the AI is speaking. So it always mentions this AI is wrong on this, but however, I agree with this point of view. So
Wow, I've that's really interesting. So I've never really done this. This is one thing I have not explored. It was always something I've seen people talk about. It's like I'll write code using one of them, and then I'll have another LLM do the code review. But the idea that Claude or Gemini knows when you're cutting and pasting that you're giving it an AI response from another thing, that's really curious.
yeah,
Mm.
and I feel like it's
It's almost sassy in a way. Like, what are you? Why are you telling me that? I find Claude has been getting a lot more like giving me weird opinions that I didn't ask it to do. Is that something you're finding?
yes, and it sounds often arrogant. Like, hey, this AI is wrong. I remember just now. I remember. So it remembered like, hey, this AI is wrong because it doesn't know our code base at all. That was its response. Like,
I love how it takes ownership.
yeah, it remembers. Like, it doesn't know. But the thing is, even though it's sassy, like someone who is arrogant, but often realizes, okay, I think I can improve this. What do you think? If you want, do you want me to improve? Those point of view, I think AI use this a lot for me. And I love using the way of like going back and forth with
Right.
Gemini and Claude. That's why also my code looks better when I'm trying to use the hybrid approach.
I just wanted to touch when Claude goes down for me, I find myself opening my IDE for the first time in a long time and actually like trying to hand code and stuff. And yeah, and just getting to back to what you're earlier saying, I was like, I've been programming now for almost 26 years professionally. And it's like, how did I ever type code? But at the same time, you get right back into it, I find. Like, you just got to get into the flow. And I think for me, the biggest thing for with LLMs is like I'm able to get into flow very quickly in a way I hadn't experienced in a long time before. When I talk about flow, do you know what I'm talking about?
Like a pace of coding. And that what
Yeah, it's also like a state of mind where like all of a sudden I feel locked in
mhm.
and as the code is like being well, this is before LMs more than anything, but like I'm writing, I am now the code and the code is me and it's like God forbid if you interrupt me, to just break my concentration and it feels like a half hour is lost. And I think that's what the LLMs sort of take away some of that cognitive load. It's like, oh, I can get interrupted because it's keeping that state of mind ready. Is that sort of
Yes.
similar experience to you?
Yes. So the thing is, I can focus on what I like and what I don't like.
Right.
Even if the task is something I don't like, it's not in my passion, but I really still can do it really
Right.
well at correct time frame. But I feel like we are also losing that concept of the focus, the flow. These days, like you, if you get a task, you will do it in 2 hours if needed, but it's not from your concentration. Like in the past, we had this full concentration, like we can
Right.
do it in the code. Maybe it's off hours at nighttime, we will be coding. And we have that pace, we have that correct focus on it.
Right.
But AI is taking that away from us. Is that a good thing or bad thing? I'm not sure.
Question, is it taking it away from us or just a different type of?
It's a different type of like I have all of the things now. I can talk to someone else. Like I won't
Right.
hate interrupting me, but also feel like I also miss that part of me where I was like having.
Ah, interesting. That really, really deep focus. Yeah, I know what you're saying. The you started down another path. Oh yeah. So my question, in just terms of workflow, you're mentioning using multiple LLMs. For Claude, it's Claude Code. For OpenAI, it's Codex. Are you using the Gemini equivalent in your CLI in your terminal when you're doing this, or are you using like the web?
Just the web, like
Yeah.
you can type anything and you can start any conversation
Right.
there. So
Right.
I just go to the AI mode and try to divert the conversations. Then it just loses the sessions once it's done, and I don't mind. It's quite lightweight.
Right. And you want to keep it lightweight. You don't want to necessarily have it all.
I don't want it to remember our
Right.
conversation if possible.
We're trying to give it a fresh perspective. I think there are some engineers, software engineers out there, especially when it's like their own projects. They're building these entire agent orchestration workflows where they're basically just writing a prompt. Hey, I need this new feature for my thing. And then it enters a pipeline where maybe Claude first takes a crack at it. And then in the pipeline that they built using AI, it will then call out to Gemini or will call out to OpenAI, hey, review this. And like, then you get into this like back and forth while the LLMs are talking to each other. And eventually, at the end of that, you'll get a pull review. And as the engineer who initiated that workflow, you went from a prompt and then like a few hours later, you're getting a full pull request. And then you talk to those people about, hey, are you actually reviewing that code? And they'll say, mostly not. No, it's already been reviewed. I'm just skimming it. I don't understand that. What are your thoughts on that? Like, because like that's what a lot of people are saying out there. Like, oh, I don't even look at the code anymore. I think that's I don't know if that's true or not. I it's not in my experience.
I think they are being honest that they don't review, but I also don't like that point of view. Like some of the tasks, I'm not sure how automated you are doing those
Right.
things, but for me, like reviewing the task or making pull request, even the committing, I tend to do it manually
Yep.
because I don't want to commit something that I don't want
Mhm,
in the pull request at all.
mhm.
That would be embarrassing if something wrong goes on. And like having AI reviewing your stuffs and you are not touching it until it creates a pull request, I feel like that's a quite dumb decision because because then why are you here? What are you doing? Are you just approving it? Like what's your work so far? Is it like just give it the task and do everything AI does and then you just wait for some other reviewer who will also use AIs to review them? Then I feel like this can be even automated. Like the full concept can be automated. I don't see any need of software engineers in the middle of it.
There are people who are doing that. But then
But
you crack open that code and it's some of the most
mm,
inane and like esoteric stuff. And if you actually like analyze the conversations as they're happening, you'll see like the LMs get into loops. So you're just burning tokens. I really don't. Yeah. What were you going to say? Like,
about burning
well,
tokens,
they're burning tokens in these automated workflows. So, right, you could literally are setting rainforests on fire. Like with a real human, you get to the solution faster. I'm curious, is that where you think we're all going, where like software engineers are not needed anymore?
I don't think so. Software engineers are always needed. But the thing is, I believe our title will change over time.
Yeah.
Instead of software engineers, maybe we'll be called AI engineers or AI something different. Like prompt coder is not this thing. I don't think that will be a title, but maybe not software engineers.
Prompt engineer, but I think maybe a prompt coder if you're coding with prompts,
Yeah, but I think so. I think prompt engineer will be the title or something different than
something
software.
different. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Prompt engineering, that used to be a whole art. Now you just that's actually one of the few things that was really liberating for me with LLMs. It's like I can write the most broken English and they'll figure it out, usually what I'm trying to say, and they'll even ask, "Hey, what did you mean by this?" And you could get past it. And it's interesting that for me to hear that you do this a lot more hand by hand than I do, but like you weren't here before, but my Jira tickets were very tiny. I mean, you look at them now and you're like, oh, can you add a little more detail? They used to just be a title, and maybe that title was a little bit not even proper English. And I think one of the first uses I had of LLMs was just like, hey, why don't you just take my paragraph of stream of conscious and make a Jira ticket out of it? And I've found that it's doing a really good job doing that. What are your
I think the thing is when we are writing stuff like just one lines or two lines and ask it, yeah, it will always generate five, six detailed lines, and it will even give you information what files to look at, how helpful that will be. So I tend to think this is very handy, especially on the docs files, writing docs or making your Jira tickets more details for the other uh, software engineers to review and work on it. And it also helps the other software engineer to use AIs on their part too, because they
right?
know the full context instead of just the endpoint or what files we can.
I will just add to that. It's very important to read the output. Like if I'm authoring a Jira ticket, I am the author of it. I know the LLM helped me write it, but like
Yeah.
I am the one who's responsible. And so like I want to be very clear. I'm heavily reviewing and we're editing and we're working on the thing. But it's great at like just getting the you were saying it earlier. Those are the tasks I don't like as much. Like I love writing code, but man, writing Jira tickets or QA instructions, these things are so
Yes.
boring,
The thing is, it's just
but so
in me.
important.
I'm not fully like doing it by hand. I'm writing it down and
Yep.
then asking it to fix my grammar and
Right. Same thing.
its tone.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
it. But
Yeah.
my thought process is same like yours, maybe a bit organized because I will always put testing then point by point
Oh,
instead of
interesting.
just saying like just a full paragraph. I will be more thorough or organized when I'm writing the PR descriptions. And it's just
Um,
still the hybrid approach so that I don't lose the ownership of what I'm doing. That's also in me. Like if I put everything with AIs, I feel like I will miss out my roles and what I do like the most. So writing peer descriptions and creating comments and something by hand, I feel like this is something I still like. And I also don't want my committed to be co-authored by Claude or
that's the first rule in my Claude MD. I'm like, you are not the author. You have no responsibility. Do not ever co-commit.
it always requires that too.
It's
Like
trying. It's always trying. You gotta tell it, don't ever do this. I think that's like my first commandment to it.
yes, we don't want to make mistakes like Anthropic did.
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, Anthropic's writing its own stuff with Claude too, so that's really interesting in itself. But something curious now, just like zooming out and thinking about this, like, so you're talking about, you have a premium plan. One of the things we do at Pandium is we pay for everyone's max plan at Claude, and it's $200 a month. I was just reading they had their financials released, and I think also OpenAI similarly had their financials leaked. And apparently those $200 plans are costing Anthropic $800 and OpenAI $1,400 a month to like they're losing money because people are just so using these tokens. And that's why a lot of the stuff is around slowly locking down the amount of token because the max plan used to be unlimited. But context also used to be much smaller. And now there is some limit. I personally don't hit the limit, but I read about people all the time like hitting limits on their max plans and stuff. I wonder if that just goes back to like they're just fully automating things and allowing the AI to get into loops. But my actual question is, like, what if it never gets cheaper and at some point these companies go bankrupt? What are we going to do?
I think it will be difficult to go back to always. So I think what we will do is like I think companies will create their internal projects that use AIs because we after we learn this, we know how efficient the work life and like personal life balance becomes, right? So I think we will build internal AI systems to write our own codes with thoughts of tokens can be maxed out. I think that will be done. Like if you are paying the full engineer a full pay, if you think about it, the cost, then I don't think building an AI and the database will be that costly.
I've actually looked at it. So there's tons of open source models, right? A big part of the cost is the fact that they're paying to train the models, the frontier models, but the open source models are catching up. Maybe they're just a few months behind. I've been using Claude now continuously for over 6 months. I was happy with it back in December, right? And those models that are available can run at like I guess that was Claude 4 was probably the first one. Uh, it's curious to get like a similar what we get as a single session to get that similar experience. It's something like on the order of $10,000 to $12,000 a month. The biggest cost being, hey, I need to have a GPU ready to
Mm.
manage these tokens. And all that would allow you to do is like perhaps allow 5 simultaneous sessions. For a company our size, that's probably more than enough. But you're right, right? That's like the scale of a software engineer. It's like ten to $12,000 a month. Like, yeah, that's an engineer or even 2, depending on where you're hiring from. And so, but I wonder if like I would rather have that over another human or 2. But yeah, I don't know. This is just speculation and stuff.
I will say you will use both. Like you want both.
For sure.
You want you want it.
I
You
definitely
want
want the human.
yes. You want the AI to help you out, but you don't want to miss human touch on it.
Right.
So there will be like hybrid approach, like keep two less people on your team for the AIs and keep 6 people for the team. Something like that. A mix of balance or maybe
Mm.
that.
So it's not a full replacement. It's just an augmentation almost.
Yes, yes. And I feel like I'm not sure if we could go back to old days. Like,
Um,
will it be beneficial? Like doing one task within it takes you like a week, full week to maybe to fix a bug or something. Will you do it, or would you solve 5 different bugs in a week?
Well, okay. That brings me to another question. Like, yeah, so you're solving those 5 bugs and maybe pushing them. How many new bugs have you created? I've
Maybe.
noticed our error rate has increased since we've all started using just our bug rate, but we're also fixing those bugs faster, and so we're getting that knowledge faster, and we're making that whole loop of, we use agile programming. I do
Maybe.
notice the cycles getting faster, but it doesn't we're getting the cycles faster, we're producing more code, we may be pushing out more bugs. The thing I haven't fully analyzed is like is the value more outstripping than the new like debt we're building basically.
I think we need to calculate those stuffs. Like prior to AIs, like 2 years, how many bugs or features you added or fixed, how many tickets you actually solved, and how many bugs generated through them within like 1 month. Instead of 1 year, move them to 1 year probabilities and
Right.
calculations and make the AIs as it is and see it. I will say it's similar output, but a faster pace. The time frame is too short.
I'm not saying we could do this now. This is a hard analysis. This is all anecdotal. I'm really interested to hear what other people think when they listen to this. But something that just occurred to me is like there are tickets now that I will put in because it's so much easier to get it into Jira than it was 2 years ago. Like if there was a small, oh, this button's a little bit off, it was almost not worth my time to like write a ticket just to get this bug recorded and everything. And so I'm curious if we're actually reporting more things now. And so it's not necessarily quality is going down, and in some ways it's going up because we're just now willing to tackle some of these tickets. So to give you a great example, 2, 3 years ago, our bug queue, not huge, but like there was substantial amount. And like to give an engineer a lot of leadway, we were able to engineers had stuff to work on. Now, 2, 3 years later, I don't think we're like working any less on the main product. Like if anything, we're like putting out more features now than we had in the past. But I do find our bug queue, even with us creating more tickets, it's always like, and when I say bugs, I mean small tickets, like these tickets that should take you a half day or whatever, is tiny. You guys are always asking, "Hey, I just finished this. Like, what's the next thing to do?" And it's in some ways hard to keep up. So maybe that's the way to think about it. Like, how big is is your backlog. Like, are we keeping up with our backlog? And I think to your point, we are. We're like way faster. Our backlog isn't as big, but I bet we're creating more tickets than we ever had too. So like that's interesting to think about.
I agree. And the thing is, we are now always nitpicking the small things as well.
Right.
Yes.
I have a great example. I asked you to add a test on your last poll. I think I asked you 3 times different, like, tests. I would never have asked you to add that last test and that I would have just said, "Alright, it's fine, it's not covered, we move on," if I even had noticed. I think, like, LLMs are really good at, like, analyzing coverage in a way that a human could sometimes miss, like, especially on, like, really esoteric lines that you may not think about. You're like, "Oh, I got the happy path followed." I don't know, what are your thoughts there?
I think so. Like as well, like for now it is writing the test code for you. And what I do, and I think it Lizik taught me is that its assertions can be wrong. So it you always just need to like write test codes with AIs, but always after that, always make sure to invert the assertion and see if it fails or not. So I tend to do that and it does well. I think without AIs, we would never touch the test.
Oh.
Like will not do that. Maybe someone else will have another team member who does the test codes or writing tests.
That's interesting. I do think our coverage has gone up and we're way more likely to have tests, but I have always been a big advocate, especially on bugs. You write your test, make sure you fix the bug, and before you actually fix the bug, run those tests. Like, you could actually do this backwards, right? Like, and I do this with the LMs all the time. We'll write out the tests after I fixed whatever it is, and then I'll say, revert all the code changes we made except for the tests. Every new test we've added better fail, because if they don't fail, it's a worthless test, right? It was a big requirement for me before LLMs were really big. Like, you can't write a passing test. That's not that's easy. I can just assert true, and then you got a passing test. And I've seen Claude make those assert true tests too. It's like, what are you doing, Claude? You're like so lazy.
I know it tends to make mistakes, and whether you realize or not, inverting the test just somehow always fails it, and it works now. When I was writing the test codes, like Lizzie asked me initially when she was my mentor, and I added that, and I just wrote code, test code. That's it. I don't need to like, okay, I will run the test. It passes. I'm like, oh, that's fine. But
Right.
and she pointed out as the reviewer, hey, whether you invert it or not, this result is same. It is still passing, even
Right.
if you didn't put anything. And like so Claude knows how to make Claude makes mistakes on this particular simple task as well. It's not simple. The code looks ugly, but it's
No,
like
no, you're right. And it's a thing we all fail for. It's just like you're trying to get to the solution, you're trying to get to that win, you're trying to get that closed ticket. And sometimes the tests are one of the least fun things for me anyway. But strangely enough, I love optimizing test suites. So I don't like writing tests, but I'll go and take like a whole set of tests and like figure out how we can get the same coverage with less tests, or like figure out, hey, are we making internet calls in our tests? You never want your unit tests or even your functional tests making internet calls. It's when you're running a proper end to end test. Yeah, maybe too many tests fail when the internet's down. Like,
mm,
it's just, don't rely on the internet. And I don't really see Claude using a lot of internet tests, so that's interesting. I guess we're coming to the end of our time. Are there like any thoughts or questions you have, and you want to just sum up?
I would say like I have a motto for using AI, so I will share it.
Yeah,
So treat the AI as a mini version of you, faster, more confident, and also dumber. And you should be always making sure that it could always be dumber than you and optimistic than you. So pay attention to that, but also trust AIs these days because this is also doing a good job writing code.
I like that. All right. Well, thank you all, everyone, for joining us today. Big thank you to you, Shanta, for talking about your process and how you're coding and stuff. It's always fascinating to talk to different engineers and see what they're doing. And I really, really appreciate this conversation.
Thank you for having me, Sean. And I love this series. I hope everyone gets to watch it, and I hope everyone use AIs with caution.
Yes. AI with caution. That is a great takeaway.